Hello and welcome to this webinar on the 6 key areas to focus on for sustainability managers and directors. So the goal for this webinar is actually that we wish sustainability directors and managers to just navigate absolutely zen through the challenges of corporate sustainability, of which there are many. And actually, there are quite some concerning numbers being reported about sustainability managers being under a lot of pressure. And especially because this field is expanding so quickly and there's more and more responsibilities are coming on sustainability managers' plates. And so we wish to help you navigate this very fast-paced world without burning out, actually. Quickly, a few words about me and my co-moderators on this webinar. So I'm Nadia Müller, and very, very to the point, I just really help you achieve your ambitions. And I do this through coaching and a consulting that comes from a long-standing experience in sustainability. I've been in sustainability since 2003. And then I have my co-moderators on here, which is Frank Echink and Laura Gallis. Frank will also chip in with his experiences, and Laura particularly will focus on making sure that we don't oversee any questions and comments that come with the chat, because we wish to make this a really nice interactive webinar with questions and answers. And so we will go quickly about what this is about, what are the concerning numbers. We will share the wheel of sustainability with you, and that is actually also a part where you can go to a link and fill in your wheel of sustainability and have a look at how your 6 key areas of focus look like. And then also the pace of the transformation of, like, how fast is it going? What are the critical elements of the transformation, of the sustainability or regeneration transformation? Tools and resources, and then closing with some questions and answers at the end. But we try to make this as interactive, so feel free to ask any questions in between. And we will ask you also questions where we encourage you to put something in the chat, and then Laura will pull them up to discuss. Okay, the reports that we have been seeing, there are 2 reports particularly, one from Gallup, but another one from Ecobusiness, which show really very concerning, how to say this? It's very alarming what's happening for sustainability managers and directors. To start with, a lot of them feel actually unsupported and isolated. And that is often connected with when the sustainability managers and directors have not a direct reporting line to either the CEO or CFO. Very often then they are tucked away in some departments, and then they try to have to make the impact. But even if they have these direct reporting lines, very often they are on their own. When they have a team around them, then the team is also isolated. So there's very little really connection and support, or as we say also in Dutch, draagvlakte, a real carrying system for support system for the sustainability manager. The other one is the ever-expanding job. I mean, back then when I was in sustainability, it wasn't called sustainability, but climate change mitigation. So it was very clear that I was working in oil and gas, and I was working on carbon sequestration and carbon capture. But nowadays, sustainability managers have to cover so many different verticals and so many different business areas, and they have to go from one to the other, and it has to have way more depth than it was originally intended, because there's a lot of there are a lot of critical voices out there that companies are not supposed to do just, ticking check boxes or greenwashing, but doing the real thing. So that means, suddenly also a sustainability manager become change managers. They become leadership experts and everything. So that's leading to an expert on everything. They have to become so proficient in so many different things that were actually never originally in the job role. The double hatting is also a real challenge, because originally it was like this, that very often people, for example, came from communication and they had a real passion for the subject, and then they were asked if they would like to take on the sustainability role. And so suddenly they had two jobs. But as we were just discussing, that role has been expanding ever more, and suddenly so people are sitting with communication and sustainability, and it's a remit that's just so growing. They are seen but not heard. That means whatever what sustainability managers do is very visible in terms of reporting. It's like very often on the front side of a company, like the sustainability efforts. But when they have actually something to say, or say that they need something, they are not really being heard. So for example, a classic one is they talk to the marketing managers and say, hey, is there a way where you could use less paper for your leaflets and come up with a different way? And then the marketing manager says, well, who are you to tell me that, right? So it's that kind of challenge. And the other one is resistance to change. So there's a phenomenon, like if you have a chief sustainability officer, a CSO, then very often there is also a chief anti-sustainability officer coming in play. And these are usually powerful individuals in the company that have a resistance to change, that have, they say, we have done this job so well all the years before, so why do we suddenly have to change? And this is usually a powerful individual who can make it really hard for the chief sustainability officer to have a real impact. And the other one, and the last one, but really not the least, is the hidden value. If particularly the board doesn't see the value that it generates to be sustainable or regenerative, then the sustainability department is always the first one to experience cuts in budget, because the value is not immediately seen, because they usually look at like immediate shareholder value. However, and Frank will expand on this one as well, because he's really the finance expert here. When you look at it, how actually in M&As, but also in stock exchange, how companies are nowadays rated that are truly sustainable, it actually has value. Yeah, so as it is, it's like currently also in general, we have the highest levels in terms of stress, anxiety, and anger. So really having to deal with difficult emotions and not having a way to really regulate it effectively, because there's not enough support for this. So this is also why we set up this webinar, because we want to really support. Basically, we love sustainability directors and managers. We want you to succeed because you're doing an awesome job in the world. So here we are. We want to help, basically. That's what we are here for. So the first question that I would like to pose to you is like, what is your most important objective right now? And please just put into the chat, what is your most important objective right now as sustainability manager, director, or professional? Yes, and we will look, so Laura, you will alert me if we will start getting more and more answers in. So first of all, the wheel of sustainability. What is it that we are talking about here? Well, it is a concept that comes actually from executive coaching and helps us to assess 6 key focus areas. that are really viable to, succeeding with sustainability in business. And we've identified these key 6 areas: personal growth, fun, allies. So who are the people that are really there with you and are there to support you? Finances, your impact, and the career with it. And at this point, we would like to invite you to actually, after, of course, you have answered the question that we just posted about what is your most important objective right now, if you could go to the wheel of sustainability. I'm posting the link here in the chat. Now let's try this again. Copy link. Yes, very good. So I'm posting here in the chat. So pick up the link from the chat, please. So it's a link that brings you to the sustainability wheel. I'm just going to show you also on the screen what it looks like. Let me stop sharing this particular screen and then share this screen. So if everything is okay, you should be seeing this interface when you pick up that link from the chat. It's the Wheel of Sustainability Interactive Assessment. And just fill it in for yourself and see how that goes. Okay. In the meantime, I am going to share a little bit more about these 6 key areas of focus. Yeah, so what does your wheel look like currently? So once you have filled it in, it's very quickly just, from 1 to 10, how would you rate, how this is going for you at the moment? And then 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. And once you have got your wheel, the first question to ask yourself here is to say, what areas are ranked high and why? So I'll also screen share this for my part.
I can share something from the chat in the meantime, Nadia.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Because we see a lot of the same topics with people, what their objectives are for sustainability. Ziga says, I hope I pronounce your name right, developing an environmental management system. Bodine says getting all employees on board with sustainability, and that's actually one of the main topics that comes back. So to engaging more people within the company, keeping sustainability on the board's agenda, making it work. Peter says setting up an organization that intrinsic govern environmental responsibilities and care, so much not only about awareness, but really the intrinsic motivation. And Carolina is actually working on getting the B Corps recertification with a higher score, but also doing everything else, like leading, overcoming barriers, showing ROIs, etc. So I think overall some nice objectives.
Great, excellent. So actually, I just had an idea spontaneously. If anybody wished to share actually their wheel of sustainability, don't know if you discovered when you scroll down on the site, I'm gonna share that on my screen as well. Let me share this. Not sure, has it switched? Yes, it has switched. So you have here your wheel of sustainability, and then there's the button where you can say download image, and you could download this if you want to. And if you wish to, you could upload it into the chat, and then I'll I'll talk you through a couple of questions in the chat if you wish to. So what areas are ranked high and why? So those are the questions to ask yourself. Like in my case, I've ranked the personal growth really high because I'm constantly expanding and growing in this field as well, from the hard work side, right? So us as consultants on change management and sustainability, we are also in an ever-changing field, and I really, really love this also for myself, because that means I get to go and travel deeper into my inner journey and discover even more about my personal limiting beliefs and how to work with them, but also tapping into my strengths and how to work from them. So this is what's happening for me. When I look at the areas that are low, so the lowest area that I have right now is for finances. And that's for me personally. It's just because I have done a massive investment on the house, like put a lot of solar panels on the roof. But also when I look at what we do at Hard Work, I really wish that we would also have more access to capital in order to expand our reach. But actually, the real question to ask yourself in the finance thing is like, how do we create value? And that's also where I would love to really also increase our impact here with how much value we create for people, sustainability managers and executives. So what if the lowest area became a 10? Well, I mean, if it's like this, when I look at finances and values, then I know we are creating a lot of value for people for whom the sustainability agenda is very dear to the heart, and we can support them to the maximum. So I know this would be amazing, because with that one also our impact would be 10, and also my fun would be going up like to a 10. So just simply working on that area of the lowest one, I know it will have an impact basically on all other areas of my wheel of sustainability. So if you feel like sharing your responses to some of the questions, that would be great. So what areas did you rank high and why? What areas are low and why? And then if you look at the lowest area, what would happen if it would became a 10? And in the meantime, I'll keep on going to the next part. So these were the questions. Personal growth. Do we have any shares from the chat up until now?
Not yet.
Okay, good. Okay, so please think about it, what it is that makes the areas high and why, and what areas are low and why, and what if the lowest rated area would become a 10. So for personal growth, we believe the key question to ask there is like, what energizes you and what are sources of frustration? So when I look back at my corporate career of a sustainability manager, what really energized me was simply also the impact that I could have. I had a very meaningful and purposeful position where I truly believed that I could make a very meaningful contribution for all life on Earth and future generations. Well, and what were my sources of frustration was my limited influence. I didn't have any nominal power. I had to work through people. I had to work through my board. And that was a big source of frustration for me. Frank, do you have anything to share on this? Oh, you're muted.
I was just looking at what was posted in the chat, which may be interesting to pick up on. One, I think Peter was brave enough to share his wheel.
Oh, somebody shared his wheel. Oh, great.
And it's quite similar to yours,
Yeah.
Nadja.
Okay, cool.
And I see with Carolina and Anya that they would both love to increase their allies part to make it easier and have more support from peers to achieve the sustainability goals.
Nice. Okay, very good. Hey, Frank, do you have anything on the personal growth? Because I see that there are some questions here that we will dip into going further.
Yeah, I mean, just speaking from personal experience, so for the longest time, I was in the horizontal plane, basically developing strategies and plans and worried about the future, denying myself the opportunity to also be very present and work on the vertical reality, but which is basically the personal growth, the deepening in self. And yeah, what for me is very evident and curiously, and I think it was on one of your slides, McKinsey now has also published a report on this, that if we are not truly and properly deeply connected with self, we simply cannot be the inspired example for others. And so there's work to be done for all of us, because I believe over the last decades or so, society has invited us to move further and further away from self. That's definitely what's happened to me. And the funny thing is that if indeed you make good progress on personal growth, you also solidify your personal foundation. And as a consequence, what's happening around you doesn't affect you too much. And as a consequence, also if it takes some time to get traction on your sustainability drives in a company, you can sustain yourselves better. The interesting thing is that in many companies, they look at work stress and they offer, mindfulness training or yoga mats or other initiatives to help with that. But of course, that's no substitute for positive leadership action to work on the work stress and the target setting and the alignment of the decision making, which in some companies is off. I mean, believe it or not, for you this may become a bit of a shocker, but recently I was in a conversation with somebody of a large Dutch company where the executive board, one of the executive board members actually asked the question if it would be a problem if they would get a qualified annual account when their CSRD reporting wasn't in order. Well, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but they do still exist. So we are navigating in a landscape where many leaders have been conditioned for the longest time to deliver business results, which is more in this horizontal plane. And in some shape or form, they need to find a way to also get into the vertical plane, which is about personal growth, and they need all the help they can get with that. And of course, motivating and influencing is one of the skills that could be one of your better guides. But we'll come back to that in a moment.
Thank you, Frank. So I see from the wheels that are being shared, I'm just looking at the chat. Thank you so much for doing that. But that indeed fun is one of the things that actually scores consistently low. And of course, that's really concerning, because the question to ask here is like, what brings you joy in your role? And that is, so what brings you joy in the role? And then sometimes, it's almost like it's almost like having children, because if you actually ask young parents how much happiness they experience, they usually score really low. But the joy piece is very high, because again, there's something happening that is outside of what we usually see as fun or happiness, the hedonistic thing about but joy is something about eudanistic, and it's the same thing with the fun in sustainability. So there's a deep joy in doing something meaningful, but there's also, of course, this element about play. And play is such a key actually in actually almost everything that we do. I think, Frank, you quoted some science numbers the other day about like how much more your brain is receptive and able to learn when connected with more play. What was it again?
Yeah, I mean, let's say just the undercurrent. So much of the behavior we observe of colleagues in companies is explained by physiology. And if you, for example, look at more hierarchical companies, delegating the decision making to a higher level saves you energy, and naturally the physical body has a tendency to default to energy conservation. So much of the behaviors of people you can actually observe without judgment, because there is a physiological explanation. Now, the point you're sort of pointing at about the development of new pathways, so conditioned behavior often translates into certain white pathways in the gray matter in the brain. And scientific research has indicated that when you wish to develop new pathways, the speed with which new neural pathways are being developed increases by sometimes 20-fold if you introduce an element of fun and play into the equation.
Yes.
That explains also why it is on this chart, because making it fun and playful and exciting is an essential part of touching all those around you and helping them on their personal change journey to begin to embrace some of these new practices.
Right. So, and I'm realizing that we need to speed up a little bit with the time. When we go to the next area is the finances. So what two things, if changed, will most help you reach your objective? If you ponder this question, and it's also something that I've seen in the wheels coming up. The classic answer to that question, most of the time, is time and money. And the invitation is here to really reframe that. And that is in what will bring actually most value. And that also answers this hidden value challenge that we already highlighted before. What actually will bring most value of what you're doing right now? What will bring most value? And I'm pretty sure that when you look at all the things that you're covering in your very wide sustainability remit, that there is a lot of value that's being generated. And so if you start connecting this to finances, what is the mechanism where you could start make this connection work?
Could I just say a couple of things whilst people are filling this in?
Yes, but please try to keep it short, okay? We are already at half of the hour.
Okay, yeah. So for us, based on the experience we've had and the examples we've seen, purpose-driven business, as we call it, makes sense and is good business. On a whole variety of things, business actually improves. You can get funding at better rates and may sometimes be easier. Attraction and retention of talent, the decision-making and the alignment of people in the company. You will find that customers' preparedness to switch to more sustainable solutions is high. I can give you a number of other characteristics of why purpose-driven business makes economic sense and makes strategic sense. And so, although we are looked at finances here, more broadly, where value creation is concerned, going for purpose-driven is the best way to make your company future-proof.
Great. And also what I saw from the wheels that people have posted is that actually allies is sometimes really, is also really a challenge. And the question to ask yourself is to think about this. Who can help you realize your impact? So if you start reframing it and start looking at your ecosystem that you have, I don't know if it helps you, but what has helped me tremendously was to make mind maps of people. And so first I just put all the names of people that are somehow connected to my remit or to who I work with, but even who I just have a really good vibe with, without seeing immediately the connection, I would plot there. And then I would cluster them according to who is able to realize my impact? And I would say, okay, so these are the people that I connect to when I have a low day, when I have a low energy day, because they are just great to have around. They're fun, they recharge me. Then I have people where I can do a really good brainstorm with, and they will help me to come to solutions. Or I go to people that know the organization really well and help me map it to find people that are, and then the most important ones are then in the mapping is also, you know, who are your champions? Who are your champions that are really championing your cause in the organization? The other question here is also to ask yourself, so who is getting in the way? And that's sometimes a tough question to ask, because it could well be that you have a very well-meaning, colleague or team member, but is actually not really helping. The other one is this chief anti-sustainability officer. And that really requires good people skill and the personal leadership skills of like how to navigate around that position and to create a network of alliance around it. This can be very, very powerful. I have a couple of examples to share on this, but I'm very conscious of time. So I'm going to go to the next one, which is about impact. Now, the question to ask yourself here is, like, how do you notice that you succeeded with the change? So how do you measure your contribution? And that would be really interesting to hear also from you, how do you measure your contribution? So if you could just share in the chat as well what's coming there. How do you notice that you succeeded with change? And that can be something, something that can be a very, it can be a very tricky one. Because you might say, okay, I'm going to measure myself with the CSRD reporting, but is that really measuring the impact that you have? And is there maybe something in the CSRD reporting that you can extract for yourself as an impact, where you can really measure yourself and also your contribution that is meaningful? Because again, as we have heard, CSRD is also starting to be seen as ticking the check marks and a part of greenwashing, but no real, we heard from a sustainability manager a couple of weeks ago where his board posted the question to him and say, well, if we would do a reduced annual report without sustainability reporting, would that work? So it's that kind of challenges that sustainability directors are really facing with, like no genuine intrinsic motivation. So that's it. Yeah, changing mindsets, improving value and sustainability. Yeah, and then to come up with some good measures for yourself to say, okay, here I can really see how you're contributing, because this can help you also when you are getting, a bit frustrated and thinking, oh my God, nothing moves, or there's even more stuff on my plate, but I don't get to the real essential piece. Frank, would you like to share something on this topic of impact? Something?
Yeah, small, indeed, with the coalition of willing, creating some small successes up front that, when publicized widely in the company, begin to attract other people's attention and interest. From a change management perspective, you will always have a few people at the front of the Gauss curve who understand it, who get it, and who want to help you. Now, if in some shape or form across those people you can find a small initiative that is very clearly communicable and shows, even if it's small impact, but shows tangible impact, then you may find that, the early majority and then the other groups will begin to gradually start taking an interest and also coming on board.
Mm-hmm.
So follow the laws.
I love the share that we had from Peter Werner here, where is it also, it's about smart goals, small start goals with also steps in between. So it's about really tiny steps And I know this is also one of your favorite topics, Frank, about tiny steps to get there. Okay, I'm going to the next piece, which is career. Also here, the question to ask yourself is, what 2 things in your area of responsibility, if changed, would create the most value and benefit for you? So very often with sustainability, we always think about the bigger picture. We always think about like, oh yeah, oh yeah, and we need to move this and this has to happen, and I need to connect those people to my cause and everything. But then also start bringing it to you. And the career here is not about so much about your remuneration or your position or your progression, but also about your own sustainability in career. How do you take care that also that benefit that you're trying to create for the company, that you're trying to create for so many people, for the world basically, is also coming back to you? So how do you keep yourself sustainable? And that's what we found is a very important question to ask yourself in terms of career. Yeah, so to bring it back to where we were at the beginning, like if you just think about 2 things, if changed, will most help you reach your objective. Would be lovely to hear your questions in the team. Also I just looked at the chat and I saw something coming up from team. So what would help you reach your objectives? If you think about it, if you think about the areas that we discussed, the questions, what 2 things, if changed, will help you most reach your objective? And maybe Laura, let me see. Impact and allies. Yeah. Okay. The pace of transformation, the challenge that we, is this tension field of all the things that need change. And that is an extensive change management trajectory, actually. And then how you can navigate in it is very often through motivating and influencing. And so how can you perfect those skills of motivating and influencing, where you not only talk to your board, but also to other people, department heads, teams, in order to start really embracing the change that is so dearly needed. Together with that one is fast track implementation. How do you get these things really quickly implemented? And what we have learned, it's not so much about processes. It's not so much about, they can of course help, but the starting point with fast track implementation is actually how urgent or how important do you perceive this to be? And from there, everything flows. If people start seeing this as their top priority, you will see fast track implementation, because then automatically the processes will put into place in order to track that further. And the other part is communication. Very often there's a lot of knowledge within the sustainability manager or the sustainability department, but how is this really spread? How is that spread across the company, so that then people can also start bringing their communication to the outside? Frank, do you have anything to add to this slide?
Yeah, just a couple of things. So indeed, if you look at those items, the question is whether you have the right toolkit, and do you have the right change management experience, and particularly where the motivating and influence is concerned. I see some interesting parallels with the introduction of health and safety many years ago in corporate life, where also certain resistance had to be overcome. And then indeed, it is this people skill, it is this change management skill that makes all the difference, more than the more hardcore, let's say in this case, CSRD reporting or dual materiality mapping or whatever it is. Ultimately, it is a change management effort. And I think all the people on this webinar probably appreciate that we are moving towards a new normal. This is going to become the new normal. And the question is not if this is going to happen. The question is, how much resistance we need to overcome to get to this new normal. And that may also be a hook that you could use in your conversation with the recipients of your message. Are we going to go slow or are we going to go fast? And my absolute conviction is that if you go fast, that you end up in the ecosystem with the other companies that want to go fast and you actually get competitive advantage. So just a few reflections. But at the end of the day, it is a change management journey and it's all about communication. And then you need to know who it is you have in front of you and what makes them tick.
Thanks. So tools and resources to start helping resolve this tension or navigating this tension field better. When we connect it to those 6 areas, allies, it's about meaningful connections. Who can help you with what? Mind map it.
Yeah.
The inner knowing journey. Inner knowing journey is a personal leadership journey that we offer, and that is particularly connected to the personal growth. So the challenges, the walls, the system, how much of that, where you feel confined by it, can actually also be something that when you go on the inside, when you really connect with yourself and start working with your own challenges, you will be able to resolve the outward challenges. Purposeful KPIs and objectives connected with the impact. So how can you measure your impact that it motivates you, but also that it's actually meaningful in regard to the job that you're doing? The other part is about, how do you maintain your own joy? How do you maintain your own sustainability? And practicing mindfulness has been proven to be a really very powerful tool to also deepen the inner journey, but also to be able to regulate your stress, your anxiety, because you can make this disconnect between reacting and responding. So instead of reacting to something that you know well and habitually, creating this gap where you just become aware and conscious of what's happening with you and then choose to respond. The managerial report. So how do you get buy-in from key players in your organization? And this goes along the line of motivating and influencing. So how do you speak to people in a certain way? Do you know what makes them tick? Do you know what it is that they are looking for? And can you in some way speak to that? But also how vulnerable can you be in there? The embracing change piece about how can you help people along this journey? And then build the joy, the fun piece into it. How can you build more play into your daily workplace? And yeah, so this might be a surprising picture. People around the campfire. Now, I think we all have certain associations with them. And the most important element is that nobody does it anymore in isolation. We do things together. We do things in community. So who is it that you can bring to your fire? Who is it that you can bring to your campfire to share, to discuss, to decide, to process, to announce, to direct? Who is on your campfire and can be there with you? Or whose campfire do you wish to join? So whose community do you wish to join? So along these lines of addressing the 6 areas, we have thought about what it is that we can concretely offer to you as a support. And the first one is a workshop, Creative Alchemy Workshop. It's about balancing the masculine and the feminine energies at work. Very often, as we all know, we have this push, we need to get things done. But actually, on the other hand, there is also a reflection required and also a deep listening. There is something about being there and intuitive. So how to balance these 2 energies at work? So it can be really in form, in body, like men and women, but particularly also how do we balance these energies with ourselves? The other one is that we are hosting a mindfulness retreat in Doorn. here in this beautiful stiltegebied, the stillness area of the Utrechtse Heuvelrug, in October and November. The other one is the Inner Knowing Journey, which is a personal leadership journey to help you really boost your personal growth, but also the ability to influence and really listen to what is needed in the organization. And last but not least is the Purpose-Driven Impact Journey. So this is when you feel like, okay, good, I really need to get more people of different departments on my bandwagon of sustainability and also get them onto my vision, get them into my story. This is also what the campfire is about. It's about storytelling, so that people will be able to really carry this purposeful journey of sustainability. And so there we offer a journey, a leadership journey, where we take a whole team on the journey for 12 months. What would be really lovely is if you could just type in the chat what of the 4 very concrete help offers that we just posted would be of interest to you. So we have the Creative Alchemy workshop, which is all about balancing feminine and masculine energies to be able to have more impact. The Mindfulness Retreat, where it's all about being able to start managing your stress and managing the challenging emotions and situations better. The Inner Knowing Journey, which is about about a personal leadership journey, which is all about tapping into your inner knowing and getting to know yourself much better and your triggers. And then the Purpose-Driven Impact Journey, which is where we take a whole team on a journey for 12 months and work on a strategic important project for the company and then showcase it for the rest so that they can start understanding what actually sustainability and regeneration means and how much of value it can be to the organization. Yeah, so this is an opening for questions and answers. Any more comments? Any more?
If I may just offer a few quick
Yes.
So I saw the comment from Ziga about the expansion of his team. I like that, but there's just a word of caution. What I've observed in companies, be careful that the sustainability department doesn't get the responsibility to change the company. At the end of the day, it's the business leaders that need to own this, the CEO that needs to own this, and they need to transform the company. And the challenge, of course, is that many business leaders have been promoted to these roles because consistently they delivered performance, but they weren't perhaps, rewarded in the past to challenge the status quo. And so they may need indeed some personal growth through the inner knowing journey. But so growing your team is great, but be careful that you then not end up being responsible for it and the business leaders don't embrace their own responsibility for the whole journey. And just one last comment, and that's about the balance between feminine and masculine energy. To the extent that you've not had an opportunity to really read up on that, they bring very different qualities. And our belief is that the imbalance that we see in the way we conduct our business is also in large measure explained by the fact that it's largely governed by masculine rules. And if we reintroduce the feminine energies and get a better balance, then we get also a better mix of these qualities, these attributes, and you will find that the sustainability journey will be an easier one to travel.
Yeah, indeed. And I think on this topic, I know that, Frank, you have a very clear view on this as well. And I would love to invite you to share that about also the gender diversity, because very often we hear women speak about it, but often the men are quite quiet on it. And it would be very nice to hear that, because I know we talked the last weekend to a head of supply chain who really lit up when you were sharing your perspective on how to promote to bring more feminine qualities into business. And it can be brought through men, but particularly also through women. If you would like to share a bit on that.
Yeah, I mean, let me preface that by saying, okay, so why the name Hard Work for a Company? In Dutch is say, okay, voor mensen die willen doen wat klopt, in plaats van de dingen waar ze mee weg kunnen komen. So do what is right as opposed to what you can get away with. And there's no value judgment on the second bit, but many of us, me included, we tell ourselves stories which aren't really truthful, but give a sense of safety or security. And it is discovering that these stories are perhaps not right. And then coming back to, okay, what is, from a strong values perspective, what is the right thing to do? And then having the courage to actually do that. I suspect you'll find that actually then sustainability journey becomes relatively easy. That being said, and in answer to the question, so in the Knowing Journeys, this lady was from Austrian descent, and there's a clear difference in approach culturally. Germany and Austria are still being much more hierarchical. And yeah, my perspective is that when you look at gender diversity in the workplace, we don't need training courses for women to fix women so that they can they can sort of fit into the workplace. No, I think it is the men that need some work to, relax a little bit into their masculinity and by extension become more susceptible to the feminine dimension in the workplace. So we don't need to fix the women. We would really need to invite all the women to be women in the workplace and not act like men. And really offer men support with relaxing in their in their own masculine energy.
Thank you. All right. Are there any more questions from the chat that might be interesting to answer? No? Okay.
No questions.
All right. So thank you so much for joining us today. And you know where to find us. Love to have you on one of our next webinars again. It will be probably September. We will honor the summer break. And it will be, again, an interesting topic from Frank, probably something on finances and sustainability.